Imagine a force within you so potent that it fuels your physical vitality and spiritual growth. Now picture this energy being drained away, bit by bit, every time you indulge in habits that seem harmless but are, in fact, erasing your true potential. In a world saturated with instant gratification, the very essence of who you are is at risk of being deleted, one click, one moment of indulgence at a time. This is the unseen cost of masturbation, as they strip away not just your sexual energy, but your very sense of self. Imagine all the dreams and aspirations you've held close, the mansion you've envisioned, the car you've always deserved, the loving family you wish to build, all slipping away with each fleeting moment of pleasure. Every click, every indulgence doesn't just satisfy a temporary urge. It steals from the future you've been working toward. With each passing moment of indulgence, you're not just losing time, you're losing pieces of the life you desire. The very goals and happiness you strive for are gradually being erased, one impulse at a time, as you trade your potential for an instant of fleeting gratification. Wasting this vital force, whether through pornography or masturbation, might seem insignificant in the moment, but each indulgence chips away at your vitality, your clarity, and your potential. It's as if, with every act, you're hitting the delete key on your own life force, slowly erasing the person you were meant to become. As Swami Sivananda says, the preservation of sexual energy gives us the power to achieve our highest potential, while its waste leads to spiritual and mental decay. In arcane science, sex energy is considered to be vital energy of our body. One orgasm is equal to many liters of blood. A fool who expels his sexual life force by engaging in practices like that of watching pornography, masturbation, desecrates something which is vital to his spiritual development. As Torkom Saraydarian says, when a person wastes sexual energy, he depletes love energy. This leads to depression, failure, destructive activities, irresponsibility, degenerative diseases, and even suicide. With a mind bereft of health, sanity, and balance, the person introduces anti-survival directions into the 7 fields of human endeavor. Politics becomes corrupted, education is reduced to manipulation, communication becomes a science of cleavages, art falls into prostitution, religion turns into fanaticism, economics creates deficits and depression. In every esoteric school, sexual control is therefore considered pivotal to one's spiritual development. While the disciples are never taught to be celibate, they are guided carefully in self-control. Having the right partner and having a healthy sexual relationship with the right person is something very healthy and beautiful. But desecrating the sexual energy via masturbation is a wastage of precious energy one needs for spiritual development. There's a difference between masturbation and sex. They are not the same. When a man and woman engage in sex, there is an exchange of sexual energy. Both of them circulate energy with each other. That becomes impossible when one masturbates. In masturbation, the male or female energy is not balanced by the energy of the opposite sex, and by the power of vivid imagination, one sexual organ is overstimulated, leading to an enormous loss of sexual energy. The feverish excitement you feel when you are about to have sex indicates the enormous energy loss that is about to happen. Omram Mikhail, from the book Sexual Force or the Winged Dragon. When a man masturbates while watching porn, another complicated situation takes place. Too much pressure is put on the brain, and the person indulging in pleasures generates low-quality, lustful thought forms that obsess and possess him after he has reached orgasm. This is one of the reasons people who watch porn have a hard time giving it up. It becomes the same problem as cigarettes and alcohol. Pornographic imagination also makes the mind dull and leads to squandering low-quality thought forms outside of the person's aura. This not only harms the person who is watching porn, but also obsesses other people who have similar tendencies. Thought forms are powerful, and the world, especially big cities, are filled with low-quality, pornographic thought forms that encourage sexual crimes, perversions, and other psychic maladies. Men and women who masturbate and watch porn think they are innocent, and their actions are only related to their bodies. But that is not true if we take the state of the astral and mental planes into consideration. Their lustful thoughts, which they generate, not only affect themselves, but also affect others who have lustful tendencies in them. Their thought forms also attract negative entities that feast in their aura and encourage more perversions. Millions of women all over the world are victims of sex trafficking, pornography, prostitution, etc., and this trend is growing at an alarming rate. By watching porn, viewers are also indirectly sponsoring these activities. They will pay a karmic penalty as a result in the future. In the shadows of our subconscious, a dangerous process unfolds as we engage with pornographic content. As spectators, we passively absorb the images and sounds, unaware of the deeper consequences. According to the teachings of Samael Anweo, these images do more than just entertain, they imprint on our minds, creating mental entities, living effigies, or mental demons, as he describes them. These entities, crafted from the vivid impressions we consume, gain a life of their own. They lurk in our subconscious, and during sleep, they come alive, engaging in repeated acts of fornication with our minds, leading to nocturnal emissions or wet dreams. This process drains our vital energy and reinforces the cycle of indulgence, further entangling us in the web of our own creation. As Weor emphasizes, this is not merely a physical issue, but a profound psychological and spiritual one. Each encounter with pornography leaves a lasting imprint, degrading our inner strength and purity long after the screen has gone dark. This insight serves as a powerful reminder of the deeper consequences of our actions, urging us to protect our minds from such harmful influences. The impact of losing sexual energy, whether through voluntary masturbation, nocturnal emissions, or engaging in illicit relationships, extends far beyond the momentary act. It affects not only our spiritual well-being, but also our mental health. Here are some of the mental health effects associated with the loss of semen. Their thoughts are always about beautiful women. They develop a persistent inferiority complex. They hide aspects of themselves through cunningness, lying, and cold behavior, yet also try to appear important due to pride, becoming hollow inside. Happiness is never seen on their face. They are always sad. They develop a harsh nature, behaving bitterly with everyone. They become unreliable, changing their minds frequently and lacking focus on any single task. Their nature becomes irritable, with anger always on the surface, reacting strongly to small things. They speak irrationally, often shouting. They live lifelessly, like corpses, with no excitement or courage. They lose their daily routine and interest in spiritual practices, struggling to engage or wake up on time. Their mind is always tormented with worries. Their heart feels broken by even the smallest of things. They are constantly scared, viewing small miseries as overwhelming. They are always anxious about what will happen next. They develop a strong interest in dirty talk and watching obscene pictures. They suffer from memory loss, struggling to grasp or remember anything, whereas retaining semen allows for long-term memory retention. Their mind weakens, making it impossible to move away from sensory subjects and focus on spiritual matters. They repeatedly make resolutions and promises, but fail to fulfill them, often abandoning tasks midway. They get angry over small mistakes and become conceited over minor achievements. Their speech becomes harsh and their nature unpleasant. They lack enthusiasm for work, family, or the spiritual path. They feel insulted by even the slightest matters. Do you recognize any of these effects? If so, let us know in the comment section. Now let's look at the physical effects of masturbation on the body. Frequent masturbation leads to an unattractive appearance, with an ugly face and eyes, losing glow and attractiveness. Spots and wrinkles begin to appear on the face. The eyes become dull and the bones weaken. Hair starts graying and falling out. They tire quickly and pant even after little exertion. They become debilitated and weak. They feel constantly hungry due to a weakened liver. They suffer from frequent constipation because of poor digestion. They either cannot sleep or feel drowsy and lazy, even after hours of sleep with heavy eyes. They experience unexplained joint pain in their hands and legs. They get headaches from even minor thinking. Nightfall occurs without any action or indulgence, leading to semen loss. The semen becomes so thin that ejaculation occurs even while urinating without any effort. They face a 100% chance of impotence as they grow older. They start hearing random and constant noises in their ears. They frequently feel the urge to urinate. They experience sweating on the palms, soles, hands, and feet. Their hands start to shiver, even during small tasks. They become susceptible to illness from minor seasonal changes, unable to tolerate slight heat or cold. They sometimes see darkness before their eyes, and may suddenly become blank and unconscious while standing. They experience a burning sensation and unexplained watering in their eyes. Pain increases in the waist, spine, and chest. Their spinal cord weakens, making it difficult to sit straight, leading to a bent spine. They suffer from swollen gums, foul breath, and body odor from sweat. Gradual blackness appears on the sides of the nose, eventually spreading to the cheeks. Their chest bones become visible. Ultimately, masturbation only leads to pain. Nature's law dictates that the pleasure you experience through your body comes at a cost of equal pain. While masturbating, you may enjoy a fleeting sense of pleasure, but it is quickly followed by internal remorse and suffering. The immediate aftermath often leaves you feeling empty and weak, which is far from true happiness. Moreover, excessive masturbation can cause a range of health issues, highlighting one of its main side effects. Millions of living beings are affected, and we are responsible for that. True internal happiness negates the need for masturbation. It is a behavior born from internal misery. Those who want to live their lives to the fullest must give up bad habits that have enslaved the masses of our society today. One cannot show people a better way and serve humanity if one isn't above the problems of humanity themselves. One cannot save the drowning man if one is grasping for breath oneself. Disciples of ageless wisdom must take absolute care in conserving their sexual energy and must give it an appropriate sacred outlet of expression. Suppression seldom helps, but sublimation and healthy sexual relationships can build the bridge to a better world. Women have a great role to play in this because they are more powerful sexually than men. Instead of letting men prostitute their sexuality for pleasure, women should teach and instruct them toward beauty, intimacy, sacred sex, and love. Women should develop this sense of responsibility in society because they make better sex educators than men do. Instead of waging war against each other, men and women must realize one cannot live without the other. Both of them are interdependent. Cooperation is thus the only way forward. In a world where instant gratification has become the norm, the choices we make each day either elevate us or diminish us. The act of wasting sexual energy through masturbation, often dismissed as insignificant, is in reality a slow deletion of our true potential. Each indulgence not only erases a piece of who we are, but also robs us of the future we could have built, the dreams, the achievements, the fulfillment that is within our reach. But this isn't just about physical vitality, it's about spiritual strength, mental clarity, and the essence of our very being. As you reflect on the profound effects of these choices, ask yourself, are you willing to sacrifice your future for a fleeting moment of pleasure? Or will you choose to harness this potent energy to become the person you were truly meant to be? The journey to reclaiming your power and potential begins with awareness and a commitment to rise above the habits that have held you back. The path is challenging, but the rewards are immeasurable.